Welcome to the Zesty Ginger podcast. We are Megan and Dr. Alex. We are here for transformation. Yours, ours, and the collective. Personal and professional for practitioners. But not just any transformation. Compassionate transformation. Because between the two of us, we have seemed to have done things the painful way. Let our pitfalls become your stepping stones. We aren't afraid to share our raw and vulnerable truths in order to help you transform your thinking, your body, your heart, and your soul. Combining 15 years of functional medicine with brain-based habit change to lead you to the best life possible in a compassionate way. Compassion, yes, yet plan to roll up your sleeves. Transformation requires your participation. And a quick reminder, this information is not meant to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your doctor, not this doctor, before making changes. Now let's get into the episode. Hello, this is Dr. Alex. I wanted to take one little moment to invite you to the opening of our Health Transformation Accelerator program, and it is open right now. It is open for a limited period of time because we open it twice a year. It is our 12-week transformational program. You can use it for any transformation you want to undergo, whether you are starting out still working on your health or you have healed and you are on your next mission to help heal the world. We got you. It is for you. So check out the link down in the show notes. You can also just go straight to zestyginger.com/transformation. You can read all of the amazingness that is included in it, exactly what we're going to be doing for the 12 weeks. And you can even listen to and see the real transformational stories of the people that have gone through it. Now, we do have the opportunity to hop on the phone with someone that has been in the program. So reach out to us, shoot us an email if that is something that you are interested, and we will get you the links to hop on the schedule for that. Also, we have amazing bonuses happening each day. So it behooves you to join as early as possible because you get all the bonuses then. But no matter when you're coming in, we'll be announcing on Instagram. So go to zesty_ginger and follow us over there. Turn on your notifications for the account because then we're going to be announcing all of the amazing bonuses so that you make sure you don't miss out on them. We are going to be so excited to start here shortly, and we would love to see you there as well. We can't wait to support you all in your transformations because we know what that's going to create in the world. It creates magic, it creates healing, it creates wholeness, and that is more of what we need. So that is what we're going to do. We invite you to come on over, go to zestyginger.com/transform to sign up, and we will see you there.
And we're live.
And we're back. Hi, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
Good evening.
Yeah, good evening. It is. Happy Monday. While we're just waiting for people to jump on live, anyone here, we'd love to hear your wins and your ahas and your takeaways from the training this week and last week. Awesome. And give us any updates. We've been getting a lot of messages, DMs from you all, messages on Instagram. It's been really, really fun to watch the progress.
It was fun to hear Stella today on the hot seat talk about how, which it'll be posted on Facebook tomorrow. So you can check that out today or tomorrow it'll go in. But it was really fun to hear how much Stella attracted the information that she was ready for through the training. Like she was just saying, she was like, I was going along and then there was kind of a lull and then we kind of picked up where her story was ready for. So that was a really cool moment for me to think about who we're all being and how much we all serve one another for whenever we're ready, you come across the resource that you need. And it was a really good reminder of we really are all working collaboratively together in this universe. And that feeling gives me a different level of safety and comfort than I think I can generate with surface level stuff around security and safety. So it's a really amazing kind of blessing that we get to have to share with one another and have these things, because it matters so much.
Yeah, awesome. Krista says, I thought training was great. It really pulled together a lot of information that I need to integrate. Awesome, Krista, especially after you were there live in January and you're coming to join us for 7 days of fun in April. Hey, Colleen. Couldn't find you guys for a minute. Well, we were lost too, Colleen. It's all good. Perfect. 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 Well, that's a good tee up right there.
I know, right?
Colleen,
it's almost like she popped out of the universe.
Yeah, Colleen, you're live, and you were one of the people who was going to win. Whoever commented first, who filled in their workbook, and that's you. So we have another prize for you.
Yeah. Participation.
Awesome.
This one was a fun one. Nice job, Colleen.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay. So tonight we have some special guests. You already saw a sneak peek of their little Zoom profiles in the beginning. So what we're going to do is we've found that, we love learning from, our mentors and people we do programs with. And we also love learning from the community. We love learning from people who've gone through it. We love learning from peers and mentors, because we have noticed where, we tell similar stories, right? Over and over. We have our favorites, we have our go-tos. And then when you hear somebody else's experience or somebody else's question, I have had some of my biggest takeaways ever from hearing a panel. And if you're like me, where you used to be like, oh gosh, I'm not here for the panel. I was here for whatever speaker you signed up for. I just want to remind you that I've had some of my biggest takeaways from hearing a panel of people who are sharing in their words something that can resonate really, really deeply. So big news, which you already know, is that Health Transformation Accelerator is open to join. Yay! Zoom clapped for us.
Yeah.
We're open. Thank you to everybody who's already rolling in. We do have bonuses every day, and we'll get into all the details. But what we wanted to do is anybody who is here live, of course, we're going to be here to answer questions, but we're actually just going to systematically go through part by part, piece by piece, week by week of the program and explain who it's for, who it's not for. So you can have a really good understanding of whether this is something you're ready for. So any questions up front before we dig in?
Don't forget that there are phone calls available. So we have people that have gone through the program who have very sweetly said that they would hop on the phone with y'all, because we understand, it's one thing for Megan and I to share our experience of it. And of course, we think it's great. I mean, it would be crazy to have that mismatch if we didn't. And so, to essentially sidestep any mental gremlins that people are going to have around that, we'll just get you in touch and you can talk to the people who have just firsthand been through it, who are farther along the path, who have, gone through the journey from feeling lost, confused, sick, poor to empowered. And so that arc is something that is really fun when you have questions, when you get to actually be like, what did you do? What was it like? It's just a little bit different. So we have that as a resource available for you. So just shoot us an email, support@zestyginger.com to get the schedule.
Beautiful. Okay.
Any questions that they have, Maggie, on that chat?
That chat. Nope, no questions. So we can dig right in.
Perfect.
Okay, and what we've decided to do is we're going to have our lovely panel. These are all people who have been through Health Transformation Accelerator, and they've also all been through our certification trainings as well. So they have can answer from all different areas, because some of you have shown interest in going all in, but you want to come to our certification training and Health Transformation Accelerator. some of you are just ready for the online group now, and we'll see where that leads because we want you all in person. We love the in-person. But just keep in mind they can answer questions about any and all. Okay, so let's talk about setting yourself up for success.
Yeah, let's do it. So, you heard about the 7 steps and we went through them one by one, right? So that right there is going to be what we're doing. But now you can hear from like a practical real-time sense, how does it go week by week, module by module, call by call, and what happens, right? Because the information builds. We're going to tell you right now, there's a method to our madness, and we're going to tell you that again when you get in the group. And what's going to happen is that you'll see how each individual step sets up the success for the next portion, and then also leads to integration back. So it's a process that continues to build on itself, and that's why we talk about the upward spiral. That's kind of how that works.
Awesome. Okay, so well, there's a little fun exercise that happens when you first get in that we will not tell you about because we're going to leave that as a surprise. A little week 0 activity that you get to do before we even get started. But once we get into week 1, we are going to be activating the power of your body and its parasympathetic response. So we want to optimize your physiology first to optimize your brain, right? We've had people come in and be like, oh gosh, I can't set a goal or I can't do the other things in the program because physically they are in constant fight or flight. So we will start with the most basic things to calm the body and get you in a place where all the other things can be received. Because that's what we seem to hear the most, is that people have done a bunch of things for their health or for their business or to be a leader or to go for abundance. And when we'll hear the things they've done, we're like, those all sound great. And then when we dig into kind of the order or the state they were doing those from, if the body is not feeling
healing,
ready and open for healing, if it's not ready to accept that, it's not going to happen. Yeah. Right.
So how will you know, right? If you have healing to do and you're not, it's a really easy way to know. And unfortunately, people will be like, well, yeah, it's this, but I have this. It's actually just that straightforward. If you're not healing, you're not in healing mode more often than not. So that, unfortunately, we don't have a whole lot of wiggle room around. We just need to learn how to do that. And that's why it's step number 1. So there's no messing around there. And just like we talked about day 1, you only get as much benefit as you have hardwired. So that's why it's a super important step. The other way that you will know is that you tend to identify with self-sabotage. So if you know something and you're not doing it, or if you know you want to do something and then you're scared and you talk yourself out of it in the fear, or you're like, but then this person will be mad. Any narrative that goes like that is a really good case that you're at odds with yourself and there are bodies that are fighting. So if you do not interrupt that pattern and at least get the physical vessel that you embody to calm down as part of it, you will always find yourself in that conflict, right? So as you get into state and learn how to live more powerfully from there and hardwire it even more, then a lot of those things that lead to a lot of internal strife and negative emotions that we then have to recover from and process, then you just get to walk around them. You just don't need to engage in as many of them, and life will seem easier. And it's so cool that they are built-in buttons to press, and then you can continue to build on that. The HTA obviously goes a lot deeper than what we can talk about on general talks, but that kind of things, you can identify within yourself the need for that in those 2 big categories right there. There's lots of other ones of not a complete list, but those 2 are really, really common.
And then that leads right into our signature process called DIMES, which you will be learning more specific about what that is and what that does for you. But on those 2 topics, I know Carly was one of our lovely members. So Carly, would you be open to just sharing your experience about, I know that the parasympathetic tools and DIMES also had a big impact on you. So If you wouldn't mind just kind of sharing a little bit about how that was and what you came into the program wanting support around and how that helped you.
Yeah. I came into the program a little bit like on my like high horse, thinking that I was like all solved and like ready to just like start with my coaching career, and slowly realized that that was not even close to the case. And I had a whole lot of personal journey to continue going on. And so it's interesting because the first week when you guys taught the parasympathetic, I was like, oh, like, yeah, I know all this stuff. And what ended up happening is as I started like unraveling the layers of my personal journey, realizing that my body was defaulting to fighting against using the parasympathetic in the times that I actually needed them. So I actually had to like really consciously and like putting in like a lot of effort towards kind of like training my body to use the parasympathetic tools when I didn't actually necessarily need to use them, so that when I did need to use them, it started to slowly default to being able to use them. And what's really interesting is like one or two videos that I actually filmed 2 weeks ago in Dallas. I noticed in the videos that I was like naturally just like using some of the parasympathetic tools in the moment. And that was really cool to have like the video evidence of the transition of my body now being safe enough and relaxed enough where I'm choosing to continue to keep myself safe and calm, because before it was kind of defaulting to a pathway of wanting to stay anxious. And that was fun.
Yeah. Thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing that, because honestly, yeah, it takes a lot to be like, I didn't want to use it, then that's what I mean by at odds. All of a sudden you were congruent within yourself, and you really, I mean, I've literally just watched you do it like on calls and in rooms, and it's really, really amazing to watch, because every time it's like, I'll turn around, and you don't see this a lot in the world. It's like to literally turn around and be like, wow, someone is in front of me in real time taking care of themselves, and it's not like a bubble bath or an expensive shirt or a tea or anything. Like, they are actually living out, loving on themselves, and I can see it. That right there is like instant waterworks for me, but like, it's so cool.
It was so vital to my own personal journey of being in HDA and learning the tools, because I wouldn't have, like, through the whole process, I wouldn't have really realized how much more of my own personal journey I actually had to go. So like being in the safe container, learning the tools, it just like, it all just really, the timing was just so critical to being able to be exactly where I needed to be when I needed to be there, and have the tools right there ready to use.
Amazing. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You're welcome. We'll be here all lifetime.
Can everybody listening in the chat please type in I can relate, or Carly, type in Carly if you can relate, because I think that we all can. And it's cool to see. Yeah, thank you for sharing, Carly. It's just really cool to see other people's experience mirror ours. So part of the thing for us is like that feeling of like, oh, we're not alone, right? Someone was somewhere and now they have tools, right? Yeah.
Is there do we have I feel like we have so many amazing dime stories too, but it's really, does anyone want to have a good story? Yeah, Diana, I know Carly, you also have, so feel free.
So maybe someone out there can relate to being the mom that does everything. And that was me, like doing all the things for all the people all the time. And I had a very fast-paced professional career in the Washington, D.C. area. And I was going to school to finish a master's degree, and life was just hectic all the time. And you'd think with teenagers it would be less hectic, but they're into so many things and they can't drive yet. So it seems like it's more work than when they were toddlers. And I was very routine oriented and scheduled, and I needed to be in order for all the things to happen for all the people. And one night I had put a chicken in the crock pot so that it would be ready for dinner in between all the drop-offs and the pickups and all the things. And I stopped to check on the chicken in the evening, and the crock pot was cold. The slow cooker was cold. And like the chicken had started to cook, and I don't know what happened, but at some point during the day, it turned off. And before HTA and doing this work and learning about how to calm myself and recognize when I needed space to breathe and to self-regulate, I would have completely blown my lid. Like in my mind's eye, the old me would have just like chucked the crock pot across the kitchen. It would have, like, I could see it happening, shatter, chicken juice everywhere, like the whole nonsense.
Me too.
And it, right, because I needed things to work out, and there was a schedule, and I had done the pre-planning, and I had done the meal prepping. And prior to HTA, that would have just sent me into a tailspin. And being a leader in my household, it would have sent everyone else in my household into a tailspin. After HTA, after learning dimes, I touched that cold slow cooker, and I realized the chicken was done for and is not in a good way. And I just turned around to the sink, and I put my wrists under cold water, activating my parasympathetic nervous system. I took a couple deep breaths standing there, and my 16-year-old was like, "Mom, are you okay?" Like, she was almost afraid to ask. And I looked at her and I said, "Yep, I'm okay. And we're not having chicken tonight. We're just like, we're phoning it in. It's going to be like a pizza or a nugget night. It's okay. It's not the end of the world, and life goes on." And it was amazing that I had that reaction instead of what used to happen, which was the complete meltdown on mom's side, which doesn't do anybody any good. So I'm really grateful for it. And I am certain my husband and my kids are grateful for it too.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Yeah. They're like, not psycho mom, please. Yeah. Because I just wanted to highlight, thank you so much for sharing that. The reason that it's so powerful is because that dimes, the S, is acting from the new identity. And there's more to that story as you build on the structure, but that's the crux of it. And that should be no news to you, because that's what we've been talking about here this whole time, right? It's identity driven and making choices from that viewpoint. Now, what happens getting yourself there is crucial, but exactly what Diane's saying, it allows you to take a situation that's life and a little too hard out of your favor, and more into the, how do I want to deal with this from the person that I want to be, from that empowered state. And now reclaiming that, then yes, happier families, happier you, that kind of stuff flows. And no chicken was harmed post-mortem after that story.
That's awesome. Very cool. Okay, cool. So shall we move on to the next step? Okay. From there, we get really, really clear on our goal. So how to create a clear goal to your future without overwhelm is the key, though. And daring to dream and learning the difference between results and reasons. So we come up against this a lot. We've mentioned this in the other part of the training. It's just that sometimes it can be really scary to dream. So we're going to calm the body, and then we're going to start to write some things down. It's amazing what happens as we start to write some things down. It's amazing, because then what happens is you get the feedback from your own brain of now all the beliefs and things coming up, which is coming later, spoiler alert, right? Anything that's coming up that now you need to work through. Without setting the goal, you don't get to see the barriers. You don't get to see the things coming back to you. So we set the goal, and we have a really cool process of doing it. It's really fun. And then we watch going through the rest of the steps, the magic that will happen that brings us the goal. I know Jessica has a very cool story about a goal she set in HTA. Jessica, would you like to share that with us?
Sure. So yeah, my journey started a while before I got to HTA, but I had dealt with and struggled with health issues, including unexplained infertility. And I was really like stuck in the illness, right? Like there had to be a way to fix it. There had to be something that I was missing or not doing. And I did programs and I did supplements and I did all the things. And it wasn't until the beta version of HTA where I kind of slowed down and stopped and started looking at like, okay, where's the end point? Let's focus on the goal and get really clear about it. And I think that was the thing that, like, I knew what I wanted. Obviously, I wanted to be pregnant, but it was like this chaos surrounding getting to that point that I felt like got so much clearer once I sat down with the process and focused on my goal and wrote it down and wrote it in a way that was like very clear and decisive, and then put it out there the way that we do every time in HTA and forgot about it. And I think that was one of the biggest things to me too, is like the setting it, but then forgetting it, like the goal's still there, but you're not so focused on it desperately. And then all of a sudden one day you're sitting in a room listening to Megan talk and you realize that goal you dropped in your timeline came true and you were pregnant naturally. And now he's 9 months old today. So yeah.
Yay.
Very
We
excited.
our HTA babies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
And then the other part of the process is not just the goal setting, but we do also have buddies and accountability process throughout every part of this, every step of the program. And I know that I was in a program a really long time ago where we buddied up, and I still keep in touch with them 10 years later. So it can be a really cool process. Some of the women who've gone through our group together, well, these four ladies sitting right here, like they're like tight. Well, these are these are the part of the bracelet crew, which we've already shared. We've shared on social media before if you saw the matching bracelet. So it is more powerful than just having the support during that program online. It's the friendships that really last. So that's super cool. But Megan, would you like to share what happened for you during the goal setting process with your accountability buddies?
Yeah. So I feel like I kind of have a tendency to go through programs and then kind of like, yeah, that's fine, and just kind of do them halfway and not get the full benefits. But in this, when we were talking about goals, first of all, we had to be specific, which is hard for me to set a goal that's specific. And so we had, we got to talk through that, but then also we were encouraged to find an accountability buddy, and then we're supposed to share our goal with our accountability buddy, which was really cool because I didn't know these people. we had a group of 3 in my accountability group. I didn't know them before HTA. And it was just really cool hearing their really vulnerable, like sharing of their goals. And then also me being able to share my own like goals and even like, I don't know, I'm thinking about this or this, like, what do you guys think? And then they could give feedback, which was really, really helpful. Because it was on Voxer. So they'd be like, well, this one, it sounds like you're more excited about this one. So like, are you just scared? Like, it was really cool because it was kind of like, I don't know, just like friends, but also like kind of coaching me through it, which was awesome.
That's super cool. Yeah, that's a really important piece for us, and the reason that it got baked into our programs, not only because she's here on my screen, but what Megan was saying about her experience, but the other flip side of that is that many of us feel really alone in our journeys, whether that's like a health journey and you look around and you're like, everyone else is like doing all this stuff that I can't even do and they're fine. So that's really can feel really lonely. Or if you just other people in your life can't see the vision, they don't see the world like you do, and that can be really alienating. And so all of these components, when it comes to getting the brain to understand that you are safe and secure in the world, that you are seen and valued and understood, if that doesn't exist, you can just create it, right? And that's why we have structures in place to give people a framework to just go ahead and create it. Because once you do it once, you can do it again. Megan and I actually met on, online dating. Just kidding, Instagram. But like the the once you do this, you'll see how much your world opens up. And at this point, Megan and I have mostly friends that we have met online and some in-person people. And that has opened up our world. We don't feel lonely anymore. And so that kind of thing is key. If you feel like that, if that's occurring, it can be very helpful and powerful to get that addressed, because you're not meant to be in a vacuum. So if you feel like you are, that we really take that seriously.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing, everybody, so far. It's awesome. So any questions anybody who's here live, or if you're watching the replay, we'd love to hear any questions or feedback so far. And I'm also curious if you can type in the chat. Have you ever noticed that when you say a goal out loud to like a buddy or a partner, that it's different? Krista says, your community is amazing for helping me not feel alone. Awesome, Krista. We love to hear that.
We're glad, Krista.
We're glad you're here.
And we have one thing that I wanted to remind people is that with the goals, it's really important too that we root the way that we say and speak our goals in a way that hardwires into the brain as efficiently and as quickly as possible, because that will determine how quickly our world shifts and transforms in the way that we want. So thank you for saying that, Megan, because it reminded me, like, when we say it out loud, it's a different experience for your brain than just thinking it and then arguing with yourself about whether or not you can do it, right? So it's not just that, but the way that you formulate the goal, the way that you say it, the way that you live it, the way that you keep it top of mind, all of those things come down to brain rewiring. And there are just correct ways to do that. That is like science that creates the evidence for it. And so that one is also a really easy place that is a very high yield, right? You can learn how to talk to your brain very quickly and lead to massive results. So that's one of the more fun resources that I think is included, is that, like, when you can learn how to do that, it might take you a while to figure things out, but follow the science. Exactly. That's what Jessica said. The flow then of your trajectory of your life will be drastically different, which is why, out of 7, we had to pick the 7 most powerful things. So that's why they're like that.
Awesome. Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about brain chemistry. So that's where we move next. There's a reason for the order, of course. And we find at this point here, it's really powerful time to our brain chemistry and our neurotransmitters really can determine the experience of our life. So while we're about to do other work on our beliefs and that kind of thing, sometimes if we're in a chronic state of inflammation, or if we have sudden imbalance, I remember my first functional medicine doctor explaining to me, it's kind of like you're pulling your car into the garage every night and you want to like shut the car off and just like completely shut it down and close the doors. And instead, I was with the state of my brain chemistry, pulling the car into the garage every night, and then I was not turning it off, and I was not getting out, and I was just every 2 to 3 hours just revving that engine up, right? Like it was never actually resting. So we want to make sure that all systems of the body are in the best state to actually get the results. And this is the same thing, whether you're working specifically on a health concern or you're working on the state of your business, you're working on your health coaching or your coaching practice. Because when that imbalance is there, we can start to have habits and things that we're doing that are directly working against us. And that's for anybody who has the, like, I don't understand why I do this. Like, I don't want to be doing this. Anybody got that one? Right. So I found this was the first time that I was really seeing the numbers line up with certain things that I was doing, including like an eating disorder that I had a long time ago, I was able to actually see on paper like the flipped serotonin dopamine ratio and the propensity towards that. And for me, it really allowed me to say, oh my gosh, it's not me and that's this fault at my core. This is my brain chemistry. This is the internal makeup of what's going on. And that was really freeing for me to know, because then there's something you can do about it. And there's a lot you can do about it.
Amazing. Jessica had a really good experience with that, right?
Yeah, I loved this week, but I like all the nerdy things. I found it really fascinating. I obviously like done hormone testing and all these things, but like ultimately, you know, certain people in medicine might argue this, but the brain is the control center, right? And so like if the brain isn't on board, and if the brain isn't like operating correctly, you know, with the right fuel in the right places, like then you're not going to get to where it is that you're trying to go. And I found it really eye-opening, like when I got my first neurotransmitter results and just like reading them, or, you know, the reading of them and kind of how it was all like affecting me. And it was almost like these moments of like, oh, that's why that's happening. Oh, that's why I do that. Or that's why I feel that way. Like it was like all these little tiny like realizations of like, oh, there actually is like there's a physical chemical reason that I'm doing that. And like this can be changed. Right. And then I actually followed up like after a few months with like follow-up testing, and to see the shifts that you make is really cool too, because you start to realize like, oh, even like the parasympathetic tools, and if you add supplements to it, like together just kind of like can shift everything and put you in like a whole different brain space essentially. So I thought that was such a cool week.
Totally. Yeah, because it does go both ways. You know, people will, they need to steer the ship and make the decisions from a place of identity. But if everything is so depleted and working against those things, it can feel really frustrating. So how will you know that this is happening? One, like Megan was saying, if you say the words, I'm out of control, or if you feel that way or you resonate with that statement, that's a good clue that is an important piece for you. The other thing that it is, if guilt and shame are predominant emotional landscapes that you visit a lot, then absolutely this has to happen, because here's what happens. People are driven to act from their brain chemistry because that's the setup. It's a bidirectional street. Our brain chemistry reflects who we're being, but then it helps perpetuate it. So it's easier to act from that place. If you check Instagram or check your phone 200 times a day, there's that serotonin dopamine ratio that's off. And so then, because people feel driven by those things, then they judge themselves for those actions. And so what are the emotions that will outflow from judgment in a way that you're not proud of? Well, I mean, it stands to reason it's kind of appropriate that guilt and shame follow, but it's not actually appropriate in that it's not empowering you to change or do anything differently. To disempower yourself through guilt and shame, low vibration, not a lot of action. Right. So how motivated are you to sign up for invest in yourself, sign up for the new program, show up, empowered and like, I got this. I choose to, even if you're like, this has been bullshit, but I'm moving forward. Like that's the kind of thing. Right. But you're not going to do that from a place of guilt and shame. You won't even try. So you can identify yourself as, needing this kind of work when we predominantly live in those places, or if you know that you visit those a lot, it'll highlight it real quick for you.
So Colleen had a question, Alex. This is one that you would be able to answer. My functional medicine doc had me do an Evoke brain scan recently. The scan you can opt to is different, right? I don't think it was scanning neurotransmitters.
Yeah, that sounds, I'm not real familiar with that one, but as in like, I don't use it, but no, it's different and it's a lot more granular. There's a lot more direct to it. One of the common questions that I feel like I get asked about this on sales calls and stuff is like, what if I have other things going on? Like, so if you're like gut protocol, mold protocol, parasite, whatever, everyone always wants to jump to those things. But I'll say it again, if you're not in healing mode, that shit is frustrating and at best, and it's temporary at best, because almost always people backslide because you haven't really fixed the environment of the state of the body. And so then the setup gets created again, even if you go to great lengths to knock it out and address it once. And I literally lived that out with SIBO time and time again until I did this work. Then I went back to a SIBO protocol, did one protocol for 30 days, didn't even do the diet with it. And I've never had to deal with it again. At this point, that was about 11, 12 years ago. So long ass time, right? So with that kind of thing, if you have this is not the time to do 2 massive protocols. If you feel like you have other things to work on, the best way to do this is to actually do this kind of work where you are creating the foundation for health and wholeness in your body and within yourself. Right. And then you have to create the resources and environments that actually maintain and live that out long term for you. Only then will you get to see what underlies all that stuff. Now, over time, what we've seen play out time and time again is that a significant portion of the people don't end up going to do the protocol that they thought that they were going to do because it's not necessary. So most people get to save a lot of time, money, and effort on that. And that's why we are kind of unabashed with our, like, we save people a lot of money. That's why we show up the way we do. We're like, we know our value here, right? So that it saves a lot of time and money and stress. 2, if the remaining people do find that they need other things because their body getting into healing state, their body didn't have the resources to heal directly, then from that point, what happens is that the amount of testing and protocols and diets and all of those details is often much, much less because they have resources to support the rest of them. You're not trying to get 100% of you to heal through supplements and food, right? If you have other things on board, you can do less and less in the food and the supplements department because you got a lot of things going for you. So all of those things are incredibly important. And for that, then you, in either case, no matter which one people fall into, either way, you get to have more intentional. For gut testing, I would have only done 1 SIBO test. I didn't need to do a whole panel of gut tests because it would have been clear on what my problem was. Now, my story didn't go that way, but essentially that is how we see time and time again. So don't plan on, this is not and then I'm going to have to invest another $7,000 and another $2,000 in testing. If that's happening, as the saying goes, you're doing too much.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So moving along in the process, I'm gonna lump these next 2 together because it's very spread out and it's a much bigger process, but for the sake of tonight, I'm gonna call it dropping beliefs and then installing new ones. Super simple, right? Who wants to do that? Yeah, thumbs up. Big thumbs up in the chat. I know. So this is, well, okay, they're all my favorite, but yeah, this is one of my favorites. This is definitely an area that I am really passionate about because really what happened over time is that we were doing a lot more of the physical body process and a lot more of the standard protocols. And, I'm FDN, so like following that process or health coaching, and realizing that some of the same people that had been doing all the protocols and all the things from like 7 years ago, because now once you've been coaching for 10 years, you have this path where you're like, oh cool, they got better, but then they go away and then they come back and you're like, oh cool, they got better, and then they go away and they come back. And you realize that for some people there's this pattern, and underneath this every single time, like clockwork, the beliefs were coming out that there was like, it was just not lining up. And when it's not lining up, we ask questions, right? Like you can start to see the pattern. So they're just were common beliefs. I know for me, one of the biggest beliefs I had to drop was around getting support and love when I was sick, or feeling like that I wouldn't get, and this is not consciously, right? But like I would get attention. People would help me out. They would, people would drive my kids to school and make dinner for us, right? There was this, and just this attention of what do you need when I was sick, and I had to really unlink the two so that I could be healthy and still believe I would get attention.
I had the nothing ever works for me. So what did my brain tell my cells to do with all those super expensive supplements and good medications I was getting? Bupkis, yeah. So not a whole lot. That's why I was just flushing money down the drain for a lot of those protocols. Honestly, now I don't regret it for what we do, but I certainly, since we teach, good learning moment, I can share this story, but this is not something that I want for any other person that is trying to heal.
Beautiful. So let's see, Carly, would you like to share about belief that you dropped?
Yes. So it was the beginning of September 2022, and I was walking into work almost every day, having to like fight off tears and crying. And what I didn't really realize at the time was that I was just not living in congruency anymore with my job, which was being a teacher, which anyone who's a teacher, it's such a job of passion. And that was part of the reason why I was struggling so much with the fact that, being honest with myself, that I didn't want to do it anymore. My family had really supported me in the path to becoming a teacher. In their eyes, I was just like, that was my identity. I was a natural. I was passionate at it. It made them all so proud. And so this like realization that I just don't want to do it anymore, like really startled me. And at the time, I like didn't want to tell anybody that I didn't want to do it anymore, because I was like the pride of my family, that like I had found something I was so passionate about. I have a master's degree in education. I'm the only one in my family who has a master's degree. And through the process of really having to dig deep and realize what was holding me back from getting what I actually wanted in life, was realizing that I had this limiting decision that if I'm not a teacher, I'm going to be a disappointment. And realizing that that's not a good enough reason to be doing something that is putting me in such a depressive state every day. And so I got to drop that decision and install the decision that anything that I do with my whole heart is something to be proud of. And actually, the fact of being able to own up to the fact that I didn't want to teach anymore was the thing that made me not a disappointment. Like that I was just being honest with myself about it. So yeah.
Oh, Carly, I just like literally got chills all over my body. Damn, girl.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
For anyone who doesn't know, the end of that story goes, I quit my job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And quick too. Damn. You were like,
yeah.
Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you, Carly.
You're welcome.
Megan, would you share the belief you had to drop as well? It's a really good one that a lot of people can relate to, I think, here.
Yeah. And this was a belief that I didn't know I had until the opportunity to go to level 1 presented itself. And it was like, once I started thinking about that, I realized that I had like a really, really deep and strong belief that it would be like, I would be a bad mom if I left my kids to go do something for myself. And like, I didn't have words for it at that point. I didn't know that it was like a limiting belief or a limiting decision. It was like a fact in my brain. It was like, if I leave my house and I'm not the one taking care of my family for that week, and I'm doing something for myself or my business, that means like I'm harming my kids. Like it was very deep, and it was very like rooted into like some childhood, some things that happened in my childhood. And Megan had to kind of help me clear that one. And it's just so interesting how I didn't even know it was there until I started kind of on this journey of growing and opening to different opportunities and ideas. And then it was like, whoa, where did that come from? and it was such a big, like really strong one. And now that that's cleared, it's like just feels so lighter and freer for me to, I don't know, like I went to level 2, like I didn't just go to level 1. I then went to level 2 for a whole nother week. And it was just such a different experience, just trusting that my husband could take care of the kids. And if it wouldn't be the exact same as when I was here, and it would still be totally fine.
That's awesome. I had that same one, Megan. So we're the Megan projection of clearing out the kids stuff to be able to actually work on ourselves. And for anybody here live or watching the replay, maybe you're not thinking about leaving the kids, right? But do you have that same thing of like, I can't spend money on myself because I need to save it for private school, or the kids need braces, or that kind of thing? That can also be the pattern that we'll see, not necessarily about leaving, but just the idea of, and Michelle said, I had that too, Megan's. Awesome. The idea of just putting ourselves first. So it's a really important one to look at, because I know if I hadn't have left my kids and done all the amazing transformation work that I did, I wouldn't be able to be the mom that I am. I can see that clearly now. And in the moment, it's still scary to leave. It's still scary to put the money towards yourself when you're thinking it would best be spent on them. So I thank you. I can definitely relate to that. All righty, moving on, shall we, to habits.
Yeah, this
Don't
is
need
the
to say
thing
much
that
about that.
everybody wants to start with. And it is way further down on the steps. That is step number 6 out of 7. So obviously that if you are struggling with habits, that's going to be the thing to keep in mind, right? What does this actually look like? But essentially, this is where we translate saying who you are being, right? Step 2, to actually congruently being able to live it out. You can see why most people fail at this, because 1, they may not be in a state where they constructively get the perspective to look at the bigger picture and say, who do I most want to become? Who at the end of my life am I going to look back and say, yes, I'm proud. I got the best out of this life that I was gifted, right? That is, and then they then don't create that vision, or if they do, it's limited or a little bit discongruent, right? I want to make $1 million, but I also want to be a super present mom. If you got stories that are discordant with that, then you end up prolonging the time you hit that goal or not at all. And then all of those beliefs and those things around it and the state of your body in terms of brain chemistry all then determine whether you translate that new shifted identity into reality, or if you continue to live out the brain wiring of your old one. And that's why when people just decide stuff, but then can't act as such, that's where they feel not empowered. They feel bad about themselves. They're not really that proud of what they're doing and creating in their life. Or even if they are, it's just they know that the potential is greater. And so you're never going to be happy denying your own greatest potential. Then that we can't fix for somebody. That's just your soul speaking to you, right? And we need to get that when we get it. And so that's why with all of this is why when you appropriately put habits where they belong, which is at the end of this process, you then congruently then go into your life and act from the place that you then really back up. And so your spirit, your heart, your intentions all then align. And then that's when you get to start to have that feeling of, ooh, I'm actually going to bed like really proud. And you may know, like, it's not rainbows and unicorns, right? Life is not like that all the time. But at the same time, it's that it was messy. It was imperfect. I didn't know exactly what to do. I had to dimes the shit out of some doubt. But at the end of the day, I did it. And that right there, that narrative that you will tell yourself is exactly why we do this, because and I've said this before, there is no greater source of self-confidence and self-worth than actually showing up and living the life that you said you would and seeing the results of it. There is no substitute for that. There's other things, but they're honestly just not as good. And they never will be, because that's not what we're here for. Yep. So with that, the art of being the work in progress. Yes, thank you, Jessica. I'm going to steal your words right off the chat here on Zoom. Is that the being proud to direct your own work in progress is really what people are looking for. So it's not that you want the laundry list of habits, that you want to be congruent with them, do them, rock them, and feel great about it, right? And then to have them work for you, because those habits will then continue to create the life that you want. Project your life. It's everybody life, actually. So, and that's beautiful. We'll talk about human design here in a second. And so with this, the habits that we built then are always an extension of our identity. And that's true for you today. And it will continue to be true for you if you would like and are willing to do this work and be committed to it, to then very rapidly shift your habits to reflect that more intentional you, and then see how they work for you. Because really, it's another way of saying you'll get the results that you're looking for: the money, the love, the connection, the peaceful life, the calm emotions, those kind of stuff then begin to materialize. And of course, we get them more and more as we go, but people love it when they start getting them every time. And we've seen that over the decade. Let's see, who did we have?
Oh, Jessica, you want to share some
Yeah.
habit love?
Yes. Because it is a work in progress. Always, right? Because there's always a new habit to change or install or drop or but I think like the biggest thing for me with habits was learning to celebrate my wins, like celebrate when I did what I told myself I would do, and like that I was being who I told myself I would be, right? Because I think sometimes with habits and also not getting down on myself when I didn't do it. Like, I think that's the hardest part, right? Because it's like, oh, I'm going to work out 3 days a week. Oh, this week I didn't do it. And then you're like, nah, I'm just not going to do that anymore. I'm just like not going to get there. And I think like changing, like rewiring that to like, no, what did you do and what can you do? And like, how can you get back to that? Like, that was like the biggest thing for me when it came to habits. It was just like being who I told myself I would be, and then celebrating that when I did, and allowing grace when I didn't.
Yeah, that's such a cool way of looking at it too, because you just hit on the main two components, right? It's the, can I see myself for what I am and the efforts that I make? But then how do I support myself when I fall short and still need a leader, me, to move myself to that next level, right? That's true empowerment, to really be like, I both drop the ball and I pick it back up. That ability, once again, confidence, right? You got it. You got yourself start to finish in that process. So thank you for highlighting that, Jessica.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, now we're moving on to the up level stuff in our process, which we found missing from everything else that we did. And
like literally everything else we did.
And we started to question, what's this thing that happens right when you get close to the edge of having everything you want or having something amazing come into your life? And then there's all this like stuff and resistance. And sometimes it just looks like other people acting out or the world. Like then there's a pandemic, or right, like what is this thing that happens all of a sudden that pushes back right when we think we're there? It's like, you're 2 inches from gold, you're 2 inches from there, and something happens. And we noticed enough of a pattern that this is a whole step in the up level, and leaning into that up level and recognizing when it's happening so that we can smoothly go through it instead of taking it as a sign that we are going the wrong direction and changing course at a point where we're actually almost there.
Yeah. So how will you know? Yep. If you feel like, gosh, it's coming, and then it just kind of falls out, that's an experience that can be a hallmark of the up level. And then what you will do is then switch gears and find a new track and start the process all over. The other way to identify this, and this is not that fun, this might hurt a little bit, is the victim mental gremlins. Okay, because the up level it's the hallmark of getting a new you integrated into your world. Right. And then at that point, this is where all the mental gremlins start. If they wouldn't do that, like, I got better, they're still in their shit. Well, I did this. This isn't lifing correctly. Well, why isn't my okay? So if you are feeling like, gosh, people don't play along the thing, and it's a little different, when you have it in one category, it's a little different. But if you notice that mental gremlin narrative across multiple areas of life, like your partner and your work and your business and your kids, it's a really good indication that the up-level process, the integration process, needs to be fine-tuned in your world and in your world experience, because usually that's where there are sticking points, and the integration process can be really hard, which is why we were like, once we realized it was missing and that we had never gone through a program that really told you how to do that, we were like, this is an urgent, let's take care of this, and let's make sure we are teaching on it, and let's make sure this is represented, because to leave people unattended with that kind of thinking is obviously not what we want for the world. And so even though that can be a little bit of a tough pill to swallow when we see that within ourselves, at the same time, know that you may just not have been taught the resources to integrate things into your life. And there are steps for that, and we'll just tell you how to do it. I mean, there's not much to it, right? And so that is a whole step and a whole series of strategies and processes that is included in it, because it's so crucial and it's so key that we actually get ourselves the results that we want it, and not to reinforce I fail, I fall short at the end, and all those narratives that we've worked so hard to blow through up until those steps.
Awesome. Yeah. Diane, would you be willing to share your experience with the up level?
Sure. So my first up level came right actually as I was beginning my first round of HTA. I actually won my way into HTA with a habit challenge. And I was in a hot seat call, and the question came up, what is the one thing that needs to change for you? And I think I shocked everybody by saying I just needed to pee. Because I think I mentioned earlier, I was doing all the things for all the people, and it was like, it would come to 6:30, 7 o'clock in the evening, and I would be doing the potty dance in my own kitchen because I had been doing all the things for all the people and I had not stopped to pee. And I had no idea until we really got into the work in HTA that I had a big problem with boundaries, and I needed some. And so I worked my first round of HTA with boundaries and setting them up for myself, both protecting my own time and then putting boundaries on my space. In a house full of teenagers, there's no reason for me to be doing all the things for all the people. And I started to get some pushback from those people when I was asking them to do things. And so my first up leveling was that feeling really uncomfortable because I was getting pushback, and standing up for myself and saying, okay, there's nothing wrong with what I'm asking for. There's nothing wrong with my intention. My intention here is to be healthy and happy and well, and to create a healthy, happy environment for my family. And that means they need boundaries. And it was amazing to be a part of HTA as I went through that process and have the support of my accountability partner, have the support of the group, have the regular weekly check-ins, to know that uncomfortableness that I was experiencing of, oh my gosh, my family is upset with me. Oh my goodness, it's just easier to do it myself. Pushing through that and really honoring the boundaries that I had set was difficult. And once everyone got used to the new me and the new expectations and the new behavior patterns, life got so much better. And it was so amazing to see that one change and that up level could set me straight for understanding that there is usually a little bit of a push to get through to the other side, and it's worth it. It's 100% worth it.
Amazing. Thank you for pointing out too. I mean, thank you for sharing that full story, and thank you for pointing out how much you can read, because the training that you went through actually took you through a micro version of the 7 steps. So you got I mean, we did here too, but it was in a different format. So it was very, very clear. And then we got to watch you in HCA have the macro up level at the end of that and actually see it all play out. So it's cool to highlight. We can move through these 7 steps in a day on certain subjects, in a week, right? That's why our point is transformation can happen very fast. And when it doesn't happen as fast as you want, then you can change that. There are just things to do. I mean, if you don't want to go faster, that is totally fine. And there's seasons of life where that's appropriate and that's what people want. But if you're in a crappy place, most people would like it to shift quickly, right? And so this process, that's why it's standardized this way, and that Diane did it in 4 days, right? Our process then was 4 days for the free training. She had that full circle and she won the whole thing. So that was awesome. And then unrelated to that up level, right? We didn't even know that was all happening. I mean, we knew the P thing, but we weren't there enforcing boundaries in her home. And so then to see it 12 weeks later, all macro up leveled up. I mean, at that point, there was nothing, as detailed as peeing. This is, what are you doing? How are you living? Who are you being? That kind of up level. And actually, if you want to, what was that like to getting to the up level week now that, the trajectory was there?
I'm just so grateful to know that that's a process, because once you understand that the kickback is a little bit of a process, it makes it not as scary, and it gives you the momentum to keep going forward, because this is the place in habits, and this is the place in other programs where you start to feel like this doesn't work for me. And really understanding the value of the discomfort, and that the discomfort means that you're actually transforming and changing and becoming the new identity and shedding that old identity completely. The value there is huge. And I think that's what makes your program so different, is that so many other programs, like you and Megan have said, they don't actually take that into account. And it's crucial to understand. I mean, everyone knows the story of metamorphosis with the butterfly and the caterpillar, and you can't imagine that what's going on in that cocoon is fun or easy. And they still have to break out of the little shell, right? And it takes work, and that's what happens here. It's life-changing to know that if you are committed to changing the way things are, that you can do it, and it's going to take a little effort, and it's completely worth the effort.
Amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, Diane. Thank you. Okay. Well, let's now talk about one overarching topic that isn't a week per se, but it's a side training because it applies to every week, and that is the idea of human design. So we have a specialist come in to teach human design and do a Q&A session to really understand. One of the most important things that has helped me with is how I make decisions. I mean, there's a lot of things to it, although even if you can just understand a couple basic things about how you interact with people, how you make decisions, and how to best live that, and then applying that, for example, to Habit Week, applying that to how you set your goals. Again, this is another thing we started to see. 5 people telling them all to do the same thing works really well for 3, right? And we're like, right? There's something here. So then we're starting to see patterns, and then we're like, okay, there's actually groupings of people that seem to do well with this versus this. So it's just another tool to understand the way that you already are. And again, my biggest takeaway was like, oh, this is just how I am, and I can actually just live into this and own this versus thinking like people who are successful do it this other way. I would say that was my biggest. I know Megan, do you want to share your how human design has helped you?
Yeah, I would have to talk for a long time. I really love human design. However, the person, Barbara, who you have come into HTA is like, she knows so much. Like my friends will tell me, oh my gosh, you know so much about human design. It's like, I've just Googled, like she just like knows it in her bones. And I just remember the Q&A call. She just like spoke words that were like, oh my gosh, you just know me, which was just super cool. But like overarching human design, I think it has helped me get to know myself, but I think even more than that, it's helped me release the idea that everyone is like me, or that like if people aren't doing what I think I would do in that situation, it's just like another way to view it of, oh, well, they're just like, they're them and they're not exactly like me, which I'm very different from like a lot of people in my family. And there's used to be a lot of that chatter in my head of like, well, why aren't they doing things the way that I think they should be done? Because I think, what my way is right. Like, that's what I would always think. And now it's just so much more freeing because it's like, there's not like one right way. There's a right way for you, like for you to make decisions. And there's a right way for me, and they may not be the exact same, which that's just been really, really, really cool.
That's really powerful. Thank you, Megan.
So powerful. It's so wonderful when we can really accept ourselves, and that's a big push to get to, but when we do, that's really the first time we can accept others and really love people cleanly and clearly for who they are, instead of interjecting our fears or wounds or expectations, all this other stuff, right? Because then we're really in relationship with all that plus them. And really, it cleans house to say, I can just love you for you because I've taken care of my side of the street. And relationships that are created and maintained from that place then have the greatest success, the greatest love, the greatest joy, because they're clean like that, right? They're clear and they're focused and they're intentional. So I love that right after the up level, because in one version of that story, it's contentious and victim blaming. And the other version of that story, it becomes the most loving that you can possibly be in like a true, authentic, I see you and I love you anyways way. And man, that's cool.
So I'd love anybody who's still here hanging live or watching the replay, type in the chat if you know your human design, what it is. If you've never heard of it, type that in too. Mm-hmm. Whatever it is, there's always another level of that. So awesome.
Yeah, no worries.
All righty. Did I miss anything else?
Family dynamics and boundaries. Yeah. This was it's not a new addition to HTA, but this came after our first couple rounds. And we began we're always, up to something new a little bit. We're always integrating because we become new identities, and therefore we integrate our up levels into whatever we're creating, because what we do is an extension of ourselves. So now that probably makes a whole lot more sense to you. Yeah. And with family dynamics and boundaries, where we come from is a huge determinant of how we feel about ourselves and how we look at life. So all those preset filters, the lenses that we view the view from, were originally conditioned within family dynamics that we were too young to really impact and have conscious control over. And so because part of subconscious reprogramming is understanding where the stories come from and why you see the world in the way that you do and what that leads you to behave like, well, then an understanding of family dynamics and how to live out healthy boundaries. And because let's be clear, boundaries are the way that we give people the handbook on how to love us. Okay. So the boundaries are not to keep people out, they're to keep people in loving connection with us, or they leave. Right. And so with that combination of pairing, to understand family dynamics, to truly understand the point of boundaries, to understand your role in setting them and receiving them from others, and explaining them, all of those nitty gritty details really become much easier when you understand how they work and what they're used for. Like what's the purpose of doing it that way? What's the purpose of even setting a boundary? Why do you communicate in a certain way for somebody's brain? When you understand that stuff, difficult decisions, unclear choices, whether you should stay in a certain relationship, whether you need to change the dynamic within a relationship, all become much more clear to you. And then you get to intentionally create that dynamic in your life. And so we have, all of us 6 here have gone through this, but I can say for Megan and I, it's been quite the journey over the decade, and it's ongoing. But the stuff that has really happened has shown us how much control people have over things like family dynamics and relationships that most people aren't necessarily even taking advantage of. So that's always, good news, because if you're struggling, just know it can be a lot better, and it's okay.
Yes, awesome. So if you've been listening along and all of the things we're talking about are resonating, we would love to have you join us for this round. We open only twice a year, and some people hang around HTA family and they go round after round after round, because as you can see, the up level is happens, and then you're a new identity and you can do the process again with a different goal. I'd say who this would not be for, because this isn't for everybody. Of course, nothing's for everybody. And if you are in a place where you really are just looking for a little more of the quick fix, or you're like, I do not want to transform, or I do not want something different, and you're really pushing against digging into what's going on for you, then this is not going to be the place for you, right, ladies? You're mute, Alex.
Oh, thank you. Oh, that's a great one. Also, if you want someone to tell you what to do, like take these supplements, do these things, have this conversation, do this parasympathetic plan specifically at this time of day, that is not how it works. Because part of transformation and empowerment is being your own leader first and foremost. And if we create humans that we answer and tell them what to do, we are not working with leaders. We would not be able to say that. That's just not something that's true. And so the thought leadership is, we will teach you how to think and how to make these decisions and how to know what is right for you. That's the key. So if you're just looking for a checklist to check off and then get your karmic cookies at the end, this is not the program for you. This is not what you'll find here. But if you want empowerment and you want to feel confident in yourself and make the calls for yourself, then come on over. No problem there.
Yeah, awesome. Colleen says, do we have access to the recording so we can go back through it again on our own with a new goal? Absolutely, Colleen. Once you join, you have forever access.
Yeah, Jessica wants to say something.
Well, I was just listening to you, and when you were talking about like the empowerment part, I think that's been like one of the biggest changes for me with HTA and like level 1, level 2, all of that, like being able to like step into my power and ask for what I want and feel confident doing it. Like that was not me. Like I was very avoidant of like uncomfortable situations. And very recently, like I've been able to have conversations with people and feel like very empowered, very clear going in, and like being able to come out the other side and feel like I said what I needed to say and I did what I needed to do. And so like it like spills into every area of your life, right? Like this conversation was at work with my manager, but like then there's also conversations with my husband and like places where I have gotten that empowerment that I didn't used to have. So that's a huge thing for
I
me.
love that you bring that up, because obviously for Megan and I, we know that that's what people want, right? And that's what is the most high yield, because you empower someone to answer their own questions, make their own decisions, take actions the way that is most aligned for them. They're unstoppable. Honestly, even if they go in a direction we don't like, there's not shit we can do about it. they're just unstoppable, and even the world can't stop them. And but it's I love that you brought that up, because you went into it wanting a baby, right? Like you were just like, let me fix my infertility, that's a problem, and I want it to not be a problem. And so if you're everyone else here is sitting and listening to this and you're like, well, sure, yeah, empowerment sounds great, but I want this and that's what's relevant for me. No, you'll get there one way or another, because the path to getting your result is this path. It's not a different one, and you actually can't avoid it. Like you can't avoid getting empowered by creating the kind of life that you want, because even if you stumble around and do it, however, you're still going to get empowered as part of it, right? So no matter what you think is your problem, no matter what you're like, it's the business, it's the health, but what if they don't know the right supplements for headache? Okay, first of all, we've been doing this a while. Yes, we do. But the second version of that is like, it's so much more than that. Like those nitty, like little things that, and I'm even saying that like Jessica made a whole new person. So yeah, that's a big thing. But what's more than that, now she's creating a world that he's going to live in. That's even greater than just one individual person to make, right? Like, so these layers begin to grow, and the ripple effect becomes so huge that like that's really what we're talking about here. And so you'll get everything you want along the way as you figure out and step into your empowerment, and then you get to rinse and repeat it, which is even more fun. The first couple, a little more work like anything. And then, I mean, there's always work, because you always have to choose to become it. We can tell you all this, we can have the HTA, we'll run it one way or another. Whether you join us is going to be up to you. Are you going to put yourself on that path or not? But those decisions then get to be supported, and because you're coming into a container where we got you. No matter what you think your problem is or what your actual problem is, it doesn't matter. You can figure it out, and we will tell you how to do that. We'll give you the steps and the processes, and then you will know it and you will live it, and you will prove to yourself that you can do it. And we're going to be there right along, every step of the way, celebrating along with you. We're really big on celebrating. It hardwires the brain. So, but we're going to be right there with you.
Awesome. So Colleen is asking, when does it start? Colleen, let's just talk through a few just actual logistical things for everybody who's hanging out still. So it is open to join today. It is open just for 4 days. So it'll be open till Thursday. And then we officially start on Monday, March 6th next week. We will have our first training Monday night. And everything is recorded. If you can't make something live, pretty much every week, well, there's a training every week, and a lot of the weeks have also a live Q&A. Some weeks have different exercises you're doing. There's a method to our madness, but you'll just follow along. There's lots and lots of chances to get coaching like Alex did today. If you all didn't see that on Instagram, really awesome session of hot seat coaching. So you'll have lots of opportunity to get your specific question answered. And like we said, you'll start to realize you can answer your specific question too. So we'll be starting Monday. And yeah, Colleen, we can't wait to have you join us. That's awesome.
Yeah, so today, if you join today, you get all the bonuses, but there'll be a bonus every day. So whenever you get in, you won't, you'll get that bonus. But today it'll be Voxer messaging, so direct messaging with the team. So you got a question, you ask it.
Yeah.
If
it's like
the 2 hours of the 2.5 hours of hanging out with us and doing whatever is you didn't get it answered yet, in which case also they'll be in the Facebook group opportunities, lots and lots of opportunities. But this is where it's super handy to be like, oh, I have this burning thing, let me just be able to ask. It's people pay a lot of money for that kind of access, and so we knew it'd be an epic bonus to throw in on day one of cart opening.
Yeah, just today. Today's the only day you'll get your personal access to your master coach, the same coach that I use when I am in a pickle. So you're gonna like it. Okay, awesome. The link to join is at zestyginger.com/transform. It's on our Instagram. It's all over. Easy to find, and there are payment plans. There's a pay in full for those of you if you've been considering and you want to come to our 7-day in-person training, certification training in April. You'll see on the website there is an option to have a combo of both. So if you're interested in that, please feel free to email us. We do, like Alex mentioned, we have people that if you want to get on the phone and talk through any of this, we are happy to do that, because this is the week where all the bonuses are happening, and it's been really fun hanging out. So thank you all for being here.
Yeah, Carly also mentioned an active Facebook group. Yeah, that community, super, super key. Absolutely.
Good point. Yep. You have a whole process for sharing your wins in there where people really, really get to cheer each other on. And there's always a prize. We do a pretty big prize at the end of that, but we'll save those details for when you're in there. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, panel. You are amazing.
Hi, Katie.
My name is Kate, and I wanted to talk about the fact that I've, been working with Megan for a while, and I am a totally different person now than I was when I first started working with her, and also implementing the tools that I've learned in the HTA program. I was not able to I had a really hard time getting out of bed in the morning. I had a low energy. I did not feel like I had a community of like-minded people. And after working through being able to manifest what I want and stepping into a different identity, I am now a person who gets up in the morning with relative ease, and I have energy to sustain me during the day for pretty much anything that comes along, including being able to go out and exercise and socialize with folks. And I would also say that one of the big things that was important to me was having a community of like-minded individuals and women, and I definitely feel like I have that now. I've made some really close connections through the HTA program, and I remember Megan telling me that my life was about to change, and I definitely think that has happened. I'm so grateful for all of the people that are in my life and all of the ways that I've changed. And I can't wait to see what's next.
Thanks for coming out to hang with us on the podcast. It is our goal to transform the way women are treated in healthcare. And we need your help. We need your help to get the word out. We have a lofty goal of 1 million downloads. And we know that as this podcast grows, we're going to be able to reach more women, get more amazing speakers for you, and bring the most cutting-edge information.
If you found these podclasses helpful, please take a moment to text 5 women you know the link to the series. We appreciate your help so much. Can't wait to see you next time.